Welcome to the Apartment Guys, where we dive deep into all things multifamily investing. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and empower real estate investors to reach their highest potential. Each week, host Tate interviews high-level guests from all over the industry who are sure to bring valuable, actionable ideas that will propel your career to the next level. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, you are in the right place. And now your host, the Apartment Guy, Tate Seymour.
Well, happy holidays, everybody, and happy New Year. It's here. 2022 is right around the corner as of the airing of this episode. And for this episode, I'm going to do something a little different, something that has never been done on the Apartment Guys, and that is I'm going to do a little solo episode here. The reason for that is I've been doing a lot of a lot of Zoom meeting consultations with people like yourself that seek me out through our website, and you can go there at www.investwithgreenlight.com, and you can find a link there that allows you to book an appointment with me, and you can do that totally for free with no strings attached. And basically, I just love talking business with people. I love brainstorming. I love consulting with people at a high level about what is possible inside of their business and what they want to get done, what their goals are. I love goal setting. I love sharing resources whenever I can. So in that, in that spirit, I've been on other podcasts, and on this podcast, I've been reminding everybody to please take advantage of that and book an appointment with me. So on that, I'm just going to remind you to go book an appointment with me at your convenience. And, we can jam for 10, 15 minutes or so and just kind of talk shop. And I can share with you a little bit about how we at Greenlight were able to have such a great 2021, where we did over 550 doors in the year, almost $40 million worth of real estate that we acquired. So anyway, one of the things that's been coming up a lot in these consultations is, Tate, walk me through how you went from starting off in real estate to becoming a commercial multifamily investor in real estate and syndicator. And so I thought that it would be advantageous for everybody to have me just kind of share what went into the basically 10 years that are, let's say 8 years or so, that took me from being a single family flipper and basically that was it. We bought single family homes, fixed them up, and sold them. And that was our business model when we got started, and stayed our business model for about 5 or 6 years. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to share with you guys the trajectory from flipping single family houses, which hopefully if you're listening to this, you have either done and no longer do, or have done and have kept them as rentals and not sold them. Or if you have flipped, you've gained some good experience, and you now know what I know about flipping and what I really believe about single family house flipping, which is that it's for the birds. Don't mean to be controversial, but from somebody that's flipped over 40 homes in my life, and I've been an agent on way more than that as a realtor, I'm here to tell you that flipping houses is not glorious. It's risky. It's speculative. You are buying something that you are going to then put more money into, with the thought of selling it for a profit at the end of the process, and a certain market under a certain timeline. And you typically have money costs that add up during your hold period. And so you're under the gun as far as timing goes, and help is hard to find as far as contractors, subcontractors, good handymen, like people to help you do the work is in this climate, especially, is very hard to find. And it's just a very difficult process at the end of the day to make 10, 20, $40,000 on a flip, maybe. And you can do better than that, right? But at the end of the day, it's a paycheck. You are not building a business, in my opinion. You're not building wealth. You're not acquiring cash flowing assets like Robert Kiyosaki teaches you to do or teaches us to do in Rich Dad Poor Dad. You're actually acquiring arguably an asset, I guess, but in some cases you could almost argue that you're acquiring a liability, because the condition that you're buying these places in is often in terrible distressed condition. And again, there's a risky element to it. It's speculative. You are speculating that somebody's going to come along when you're done repairing and renovating that single family house. You're speculating that somebody's going to come along and want to buy that for a profit. So that said, it took me a long time to figure that out, right? And just a little background on me. If you haven't met me and know about me, I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, but I've been in Salt Lake City, Utah for going on 23 years. And I'm a skier and a mountain biker, and originally a photographer by trade. And I started out in formal wedding and portrait photography, and did that as a business for a long time, and decided that as hard as I was working in photography, that I wasn't getting to where I wanted to get financially. And I had a friend who I was visiting with one afternoon, and I was asking him what he was up to. And he said, well, I'm flipping a duplex. And I said, you're whatting I'm sorry. He said, I'm flipping a triplex. And I'm like, you're doing what? You're doing what to a triplex? Like, I literally, this was 2006. I had not heard the term flipping before. And it turned out that he was taking a class, a real good entry-level class in basic flipping and acquiring rentals and acquiring cash flowing properties as well. And I was very, very interested in that, and decided to take the class with him, and began flipping my own houses in 2006 and 2007. And then I also got my real estate license and became a realtor, and started helping other investors do the same thing that I was doing. And then the crash happened, right? So 2008 happened, and all the funding programs that we were using to flip houses with evaporated. All the lending programs went away, and it was literally impossible to do the deals that we had on the plate at the time. We had to cancel deals, and we weren't able to continue under the current business model that we were working. And when I say we, it was basically me at that point, solopreneur, and working with other investors as a realtor. And so I basically had never really found a great groove in the single family world at that point. So I was okay with the idea of going back to photography and doing a few other business type ventures, and which I did after the crash in the 2009 through 2012 timeframe. And then 2012 came along, and my longtime boss and business partner and best friend, his name's Carl York, he approached me and said, hey, Tate, how would you feel about flipping some houses? And I said, no way, dude. Like, I am not going back to real estate. I at that point was feeling kind of burnt out on a few things, but real estate was one of them. And I just wasn't inspired by that, but he managed to talk me into it. And sure enough, we found some houses. We found a house that we bought in Salt Lake County in 2012 or late 2011 that we bought for, I think around, it was under $100,000. Nice house on a nice lot. Back then you could do that. And we did, we made $60,000-$70,000 on that first house. And then we were kind of off to the races. And what we did, and this is not the way to do this. In fact, this is the way not to do single family flipping if you're going to do it. We took all of our resources, meaning all of our own money and credit lines and everything else that we could round up, and we would put all of that towards one house, maybe two houses at a time. And we would also general contract the jobs ourselves, one or two houses at a time, meaning we were on the job site every single day, going to Home Depot multiple times every single day, managing subs, taking bids, sweeping floors, sanding drywall, doing all the things, right, that involves both renovating a house, owning a house, like yard work. We were consumed with working in our business as paid, essentially, really unpaid employees. We were just taking profit, of course, but we were doing the job of what should have been a project manager or a general contractor, somebody in our system that would have allowed us to work on our business and not in our business, which is what we really needed to do. And had we been smart and been surrounded by smart people at the time that were advising us well, we would have also kept some of the properties that we were flipping, and things would be very different today. So long story short, we spent about 5-6 years flipping houses, and we did about 40 houses or so during that time. We worked our way up into some very, very nice asset classes. Like we did $1 million houses in the Salt Lake Country Club area. And it was all here in Utah and in a market that was growing very, very fast. So we were able to make mistakes and not suffer because of them due to appreciation. So it was a very forgiving environment for us. And long story short, we just got burnt out because we weren't growing. We were working hard for a paycheck. At the end of the day, we didn't have a business really to show for what we were doing. We didn't have systems and processes or human resources. We didn't have assets. We weren't acquiring cash flowing assets and holding on to them and enjoying the cash flow and appreciation like really you should be doing in any asset class. And one of the many reasons for that was I as the lead visionary in our team between Carl and myself at the time, I had not intentionally surrounded myself with the kinds of people that and organizations and thought leadership platforms, podcasts, audiobooks, et cetera, that would have led me to thinking bigger, right? And thinking better about doing better business. And so right around about 4 years ago, so late 2017 or so, something lit up inside of me, and I can't really put a finger on exactly what it was, but there were some fundamental changes in me. And I think without going down the rabbit hole of getting too deep into this, there was some personal development work that I did at the time or in the couple years prior to that allowed me to be a lot more free on a personal level, on a spiritual level, like on an inner level, right? Like I just was a happier person, and which led to being able to think bigger about things and think bigger about business. And one of the biggest things that I did that really moved the needle in my mindset was I started going to our local real estate investor association meetings. And that was huge, because all of a sudden I was immersed in a community of investors just like me, doing usually at least as much as we were doing, and in a lot of cases, a lot more than we were doing. I was exposed to developers, landlords, like guys that were building apartment buildings, guys that were acquiring apartment buildings. Like all of a sudden I'm surrounded by examples of people that are doing way cooler, bigger, badder things than us. And at the time, it occurred to me that what we needed to do was turn up the volume on what we were doing. So even though I was thinking bigger, I was still thinking in a linear fashion along the lines of taking what we were doing and doing it better, or doing it bigger, particularly. And one evening I went to a presentation that was given by a developer, and it was all about going bigger, becoming a developer from a house flipper, which sounded great to me at the time. It sounded like our next chapter. And in fact, the name of our company at the time was Olympus Development. And that really kind of says it all, right? We saw ourselves as developers. And so we started doing development type deals. We started buying raw land in hyper aggressive, dense zoning areas in Salt Lake City. And we had that land entitled for usually townhome developments. And then we would sell those townhomes or sell the development rather, papered, but not having been built yet, to a developer or a builder and make some money that way. Again, still very speculative, right? Like buying land with the plan of getting the city to approve it and betting that somebody's going to come along and buy it from you for a profit. That is speculative. That's the definition of speculation. However, we did that. We kept going. Then we bought a couple of development projects from a wholesaler developer here in town that were new build $1 million townhome projects. Each townhome was worth $1 million, meaning they were 3,000 square foot each, high 10-foot ceilings with obviously the highest end finishes, floor to ceiling windows, hardwood, granite, stainless, the whole 9 yards, right? Beautiful 2-car garages, 3-story layouts with patios and balconies and open floor plans, just really gorgeous products. Long story short, we built those, and we did not do very well on them. In fact, they were kind of disasters at the end of the day for a number of different reasons. And I've talked about these projects at length in other episodes. So I'm not going to do a very deep dive into these townhome projects and kind of what went wrong and how it went wrong and everything else. But suffice to say that they were the one venture, or the 2 ventures, because there were 2 different projects totaling 6 townhomes. They were the 2 ventures that we've ever done that we lost money on, quite frankly. And I don't mind sharing that with you because it's just the reality of what happened. And it's what happens sometimes in investing. And it's what happens when you go speculative. And we were going massively speculative on that we could successfully build new housing product we had never built before. And we bit off more than we could chew. To be totally real about it, we didn't know what we didn't know about what we didn't know, and about what we needed that we didn't know we needed, and the help that we really needed to have, and the advice that we really needed to have. Like, we just didn't know. And there was an awful lot of that, unfortunately. And we went big wave surfing, so to speak, and we got pummeled in the waves. We went over the bars and over the falls, as they say when you surf, and got pummeled. And so luckily, and I say this with some pride, I guess, but luckily I was able to kind of keep us pointed forward in the direction of where we wanted to go. So I kept going, even though we were getting beat up by these townhome projects. We, shortly after we broke ground on those, The same wholesaler that sold us those brought us a 12-unit deal, a 12-unit apartment deal in South Salt Lake City that was severely distressed, needed a full head-to-toe remodel, and was a project that we knew we could make a lot of money on. And it was the first project that we ever underwrote that had a cash flow component to it, meaning these were rentable apartments that when we went to underwrite the deal, we could factor in income from those apartments into our underwriting. That for us was brand new, even though it seems so obvious and simple. It was a huge revelation for us, and it has changed everything for us since. It was our first real glimpse at a multifamily deal, and it happened to be one that we had access to, that we were able to acquire. And we did a head-to-toe remodel on that thing, new TPO membrane roof, and new high energy efficiency windows, LVT flooring, quartz countertops, stainless steel, new mechanicals, new central air. We painted the exterior. We did new landscaping. I mean, we just did everything head to toe, and we did well on it. We ended up having to sell it because of some of the financial conditions of the rest of our business. We would love to have kept it, but we needed the profit at the time. And so we sold that, and we made roughly $300,000 on that deal in about a year. So 12 units, about $300,000 profit in about a 12-month period. And we financed it with a hard money loan, by the way. And we found one partner that brought in the down payment, and the hard money loan covered most of the fix-up cost. And so we did that deal essentially no money out of pocket. Kind of a side note to that. And that was another revelation to us, was how it was easier to raise money and get investors and partners for these deals than single family deals. It just was. So that was our first real look into multifamily. And I knew right away this was the direction we were going to go. We were going to go in the direction of apartments. I had heard people give speeches and talks about why apartments are easier than single family houses to invest in. I don't necessarily agree with that, by the way, but I understand the point that people are trying to make. That's not necessarily better or easier, rather, to invest in commercial multifamily versus residential. But I think it's better, significantly better, for so many reasons. And I'll get into those here in just a bit. So while we were doing our 12 unit, a couple of wonderful things happened. Number one, a good friend of who has now become a good friend of mine came and spoke at a Utah Real Estate Investor Association meeting. His name's Adam Adams, and like I said, is now a very good friend of mine. He came in and gave a speech on the 5 ways to get involved in multifamily investing, the 5 ways to become an apartment investor. And it was the first time that anybody looked me in the eye and said, you could do this. It was the first time I ever got that message that this is doable and you can do it, Tate. So it was a game change for me, huge. And I later went to a convention in Denver, a conference that Adam facilitated. He was there promoting that night. And I went to the conference, and there were 15 or so just high level speakers, all from the apartment investing space. And I met some of the people that have become massively influential in my life today at that conference. Corey Peterson was one of them. And in particular with Corey, we enrolled in a coaching mastermind with him. That was a year-long program that we did, where we got really high level education from Corey on how to do this business, how to invest in apartments, how to syndicate apartments. Syndication means, all that means is you're bringing together something, right? So when you syndicate, you're bringing things together. When you syndicate apartment investments, you're bringing together different investors and their capital, and you're putting it all in a pool, essentially an investment pool. that are a fund, if you will, that becomes the investors in each deal. So we really got a lot of confidence from Corey. He was great to us in so many different ways. One of those ways was that he put together a credibility kit for us. And what that is it's a 5 or 6 page document that has your company profile, who you are, what you do, how you do it, how you structure your deals, your portfolio, bios on your team members. And that's about it. Strategy, you talk about it, strategy. And he was willing to be on our team, meaning that we were able to leverage his credibility, his resume, his portfolio, and everything else, and essentially have Corey Peterson, a national, well-known apartment syndicator, as part of my team, which gave me some credibility with brokers and with sellers and everything else. So it's super exciting. And we went out and we started looking for deals nationally. Utah was just, bottom line, just too high a price for what you can rent things out for here. You just got to pay too much, meaning you got to pay such a low cap rate here, if you know about cap rates, that it's darn near impossible to cash flow a property. But we went after them. Like, we went after them hard in Utah and outside of Utah. We went after properties in San Antonio, Columbus, Ohio, Oklahoma City. We put a deal under contract in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that was 44 units that we almost got to the finish line and purchased, except for COVID happened and blew up our financing. But in the meantime, we're out there, like, basically talking to brokers, talking to property managers, learning the market, doing all the things that it took to prepare to become apartment syndicators and apartment owners. And that's what we did for the better part of 2 years. In the meantime, the townhomes were continuing to be built in downtown Salt Lake. And we had a realtor come through and show a client the townhomes before they were finished to potentially buy. That realtor happened to own a 20-unit apartment complex in Clearfield, Utah, north of here, about 45 minutes north of Salt Lake. And he was selling it and happened to, it was not on the market. So it was on the market and went under contract, and the buyers backed out, and it became available the day, essentially, that he was showing this apartment, that he was showing our townhouses to this client. I told him, I'm like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're looking for apartments. We're looking for deals right now. He said, oh, I have a 20 unit that just fell out of contract that you guys should take a look at. Long story short, we went and took a look at it, severely distressed, needed tons and tons of work. In the last year, so we bought it in August of 2020, and we budgeted about $450,000 in CapEx, capital expenditures, for that project. And at the end of the day, we've spent twice that in about a year and 4 months now. We've spent almost $900,000 on renovating this 20-unit building. However, we were able to double the rents, literally double the rents, from the high 600s to the 1300s in some cases on these 20 units. And therefore, we were able to massively increase the value of the property. Fast forward to today, we're getting ready to market and sell that property to pay for the losses on the townhomes. Again, we would love to keep this particular property, but we need to take care of business and move on. Just wait, though, and listen to what's happened since then. So up till now, let's just kind of do a quick summary up till now. So right now, we have hired a mentor and a coach in Corey Peterson. We have gone to lots and lots of networking events, a couple of national level conferences, and listened to hours and hours of podcasts. And then there was an audio book along the way that was massively important to us. And I'll go ahead and mention that audio book here. Write this down. Okay. If you're thinking about this business and this line of this line of investing and this asset class, write down the name of this book. It's called How to Make Big Money in Small Apartments by Lance Edwards. How to Make Big Money in Small Apartments by Lance Edwards is the name of the book. And that was a game changer for me. And then eventually Carl, my partner, he read it and it was game changing for him too. What it does is it gives you an incredible, like 30,000 foot view of the whole game, right? Like everything that's involved in buying apartments, renovating apartments, managing apartments, or managing the manager, because you don't want to be the property manager. You want to be the asset manager. Those are two very different things. But basically, working with investors, syndicating, raising capital, like he basically boiled it down to a simple model of, with apartment investing, you're finding deals and you're finding dollars, you're bringing them together, and you're acquiring these cash flowing assets that are going to pay back your investors nicely, pay you nicely, pay down the mortgage, and generally grow and appreciate in value over time, and generate cash flow over time. So think about the difference between this asset class that pays you, pays the mortgage, pays your investors, pays the expenses, provides an essential living element for residents in their apartment buildings. Think about how different that is than buying a single family house or a lot and speculating that you can do something with it and have somebody come along and buy it later for a profit. They're two totally different things. When you are underwriting a cash flowing apartment building, there's more income there than there are expenses, plus the mortgage, plus your investor returns. There's enough income to cover all of that and more. And that's in a good deal. And that's the kind of deals that we do now. That's the kind of deals that we've done for the last year. Those are the kind of deals we've done for the last year. And to make a long story short, we now own 572 doors, including that 20 unit. So since we bought the 20 unit in August of 2020, we've acquired 552 doors between 6 different communities in Columbus, Ohio, and Oklahoma City. We did that by working broker relationships and meeting people. One of the most important things we ever did was go to the markets that you're shopping in and go to them as frequently as you can, spend as much time in them as you can, shake as many hands as you can, go to as many lunches and coffees as you can, and really network and deep dive into the market so that you know it so well. Become a deal finding machine. That's what we did. And Greenlight Equity Group is a deal first machine. We go out and we find the very, very best deals that we can, needle in a haystack type deals that cash flow well, that have a good value add component where we can go in and improve the community, bump rents up, and increase the value of the community in usually a 3 to 5 year period. Then we'll either refinance the property and keep it, or we'll sell it and trade up into something larger. So fast forward to today, that's where we are. I know I skipped about a year in there, right? And that's from when we acquired the 20 unit in August of 2020 till now, which is December of 2021. A lot has happened. An awful lot's happened. And I'll just say that it's happened because of all of the things that you heard about us doing before this. So all of the legwork that we did, all of the learning, the specialized knowledge, the networking, just growing, right? Like personal development work, expanding your mindset to believe that you can do these big deals. That, my friends, is the number one biggest thing that you can do to become an apartment investor, a commercial real estate investor, is do whatever it takes to expand your mindset. Do whatever it takes to convince yourself that you can do this, right? You are capable of doing big commercial real estate deals. If you're listening to this right now, I promise you, you're capable of this. You just by seeking this out and listening to this long to me ramble about how I did it means that you can do it. And you can tell I made huge mistakes along the way, right? I failed and failed for a long time and then failed bigger. And in the meantime, I woke up every morning knowing that I was headed in a positive direction, even when things were really, really bad. And we were really in the trenches with the townhomes, and we knew we were going to lose money, but we were still probably a year out from finishing them. I just had to make a choice. Like, I either was going to throw in the towel and do whatever, go be a restaurant manager. God bless restaurant managers. I love them, but not my highest and best calling right now. Or do something like that and just give up. Or I was going to exercise faith in whatever you want to call it, whether it's the universe or, the spiritual force or God or whatever it looks like to you, Holy Spirit. Like, I had faith. I chose to have faith that things would work out and I had evidence that things almost always worked out in my life. And I just chose to believe that that was going to continue to be the case somehow. And we have, just by virtue of doing the 120 unit deal, we have mitigated all of the losses from the townhouses. In other words, when we trade in essentially our 20 unit apartment building later this year, that will pay off all of our losses from the townhomes and more. And we've acquired about $40 million worth of apartments aside from that project since then. We first acquired two properties in one property in Columbus, Ohio, and one property in Mansfield, Ohio, about an hour apart from each other. And the Columbus property is 70 units and the Mansfield property was 179 units. Those were our two first large unit count deals. And to do those deals, we recruited some great partners in Columbus, some boots on the ground guys, a partner team that they happen to be firefighters and public servants and also real estate investors. And they've been our partners on those deals with us. And then we bought 3 communities in Oklahoma City, a 51 unit and 2 other communities totaling 192 units in Oklahoma City. And then we purchased another 60 unit townhome community in Columbus, Ohio, about 3 months ago now. So somewhere right around September, October of 2021. We currently have a number of things in the works, but we don't have anything currently under contract. That's hopefully going to change, momentarily, right? Things change fast in this space often, and deals come along that we jump all over and get under contract and charge forward with pretty frequently as well. So, but right now we have a number of fish out there that we're fishing for, and we don't have on the line just yet. So we're not currently raising capital for any particular deal, although we are always talking to investors and letting them know the kinds of deals that we do, what the opportunities to work with us look like, and how to best go about taking advantage of those opportunities. If you're interested in talking to me at any level about that, again, go to www.investwithgreenlight.com, investwithgreenlight.com, and you can book an appointment with me there to talk about investing, if you'd like, or we can talk about whether you might be somebody that wants to be an active investor. or somebody that wants to be a passive investor. Like there's a lot of different ways to be involved in this, and you don't, it's a much lower barrier to entry than you might think. In fact, our typical minimum investment amount on any particular deal that we do is about $50,000 usually. So you can get in on a great deal, get great returns for not a whole heck of a lot of capital in the grand scheme of things. So lots of possibilities there, right? Like just think about, well, I guess think about this. Think about Greenlight Equity Group as a resource for you. Think about me as a resource for you. I'm here to consult with you at any level in this particular realm of business. I can talk other realms of business as well. I'm just not as much of an expert, I guess, on those. And I'm learning all the time as well. Like this podcast has given me a wonderful venue and forum to have high level interactions and discussions with people that I greatly admire and look up to and have learned so much from over the last 2 years of doing this podcast. So on that, I would just like to summarize by, I guess, bringing home a few key takeaways from our journey, Carl's and my journey as apartment investors. And by the way, a very important addition to the story is through this year in working our Oklahoma City deals, we've partnered up with a woman named Chelsea Garber, who has now become our third partner in Greenlight. And Chelsea's somebody I met at a conference 2.5 years ago. And we stayed in touch, and she moved to Utah, and basically we've been doing business deals together ever since she moved to Utah, and she's just a perfect fit for our company. And we could not consider ourselves any luckier than we do right now to have Chelsea on board. And so it's really the three of us creating what we like to think of as a 5-star life for ourselves, for our investors, and for our residents. That's what we're all about. Our commitment in our company is to our residents and to our investors. We know that if we take as good a care of those two groups of people as we can, that the rest will take care of itself, and everything will go well and fall into place. We consider owning and operating apartment buildings and apartment communities to be almost like a sacred trust, right? Like the well-being of families, kids, little kids, infants, toddlers, moms, dads, they're in our hands, right? Like the level of quality that we provide in these communities directly affects the quality of life of these residents. And that is a responsibility that we take very, very seriously and are very committed to fulfilling upon. So takeaways, this is a long game. And what you want to look at is like when you're starting out, you're building a foundation of relationships, and in particular relationships with brokers and people that can find you deals. There's other ways to find deals. You can go direct to owner, direct to seller, but we found that working our broker relationships and becoming very great clients of theirs and being the best client that we can possibly be for them so that they bring us more deals, that's what's really paid off for us. As you could tell, it was about a 3-year trajectory for us to get to a place where we started really acquiring assets at scale. And you can look at it like, okay, we bought our first big one in August. Now we have 572 in December, a year later, like 14, 15 months later, whatever, 16 months later, whatever that is. But you can't look at just that. You have to look at the year, the really 2+ years leading up to that, and what we did leading up to that. So that's one takeaway. Like this is a long game, and it takes patience, right? Like this is not a get rich quick scheme at all. This is a hard work scheme. And it's not a scheme. It's a great business, and it's a wonderful business model to get into if it's a good fit for you. So I'd say that. Another big takeaway, keep moving your feet. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you're a linebacker playing football and you're running the ball up the middle and you're being tackled and being hit and everything else, the best thing you can do, really the only thing you can do, is keep moving your feet underneath you. Keep moving your feet, keep plowing forward. We did that for a long, long time without any evidence that we were going to get any success. Like, it was a belief and an exercise in faith that we would be successful in what we were up to. And even when we failed and stumbled and fell, we kept moving our feet. And that's really what it took. Another big takeaway is surround yourself with a mentor, mentors, audiobooks, podcasts, people that take an active interest in your success, right? And if you can, and it calls to you, get in a coaching program, a mentorship program. Michael Blanc has a good one. Jake and Gino have a good coaching program. Rod Cleef has a good coaching program. They're all good programs, and they're all as successful as you make them to be. So that's like number 3 takeaway, is get into those programs. Surround yourself with people doing this business that can help you do this business. Number 4 takeaway is show up at these conferences, guys. There are great national level conferences that are do not miss. Michael Blanc's Dealmaker Live is a do not miss. Joe Fairless's conference, the Best Ever Conference, is a do not miss. Rod Cleef puts on events that are do not misses. Jake and Gino put on their Money Mastery events that are incredible. You immerse yourself in being an apartment investor and surrounding yourself with other apartment investors when you go to these conferences. It is huge. It's a massive game change. It's where I met Chelsea, our current partner. It's where I met a lot of other partners as well. And side note, go to these virtual meetup groups as well. And if you don't know what those are or where to find them, find me online at investwithgreenlight.com. Email me through that, or you can just email me at tate@glequitygroup.com, and I will send you, no strings attached, totally free, a list of all the virtual meetup groups that I know of that meet every week or every month. We have one that meets every month. Chelsea and I run it, and it's fantastic. We have high level guests on there every month, and it's great networking. It's powerful stuff. And you meet people that can really help you move the needle in your business. So I really encourage you to get out there and get to those conferences and those meetings. So beyond that, guys, this is just a matter of the real estate between your ears. Like, that real estate needs to be developed before you're going to develop a portfolio. Your portfolio will never exceed the level of your personal development. Let me say that again. Your portfolio, your wealth will never exceed the level of your personal development. That's just the way it works. So invest in yourself. Look at everything that you do for yourself, especially professionally, as an investment in yourself that's going to move the needle for you, if not in the short term, certainly in the long term. And these things add up, and the cumulative effects of 1% improvements every day, guys, is massive. It's just massive. So on that, I'm going to leave you with that, guys. Hopefully this was helpful and illuminating like the path of one investment team, Carl and myself. There's many different ways of going about it. There's a lot of people that have done a lot more than 550 doors in a year. And you can go learn from them. And that's why this is such a great space, is because there's so much generosity of and contribution, like from experts and people that have gone before and have paved the way, so to speak. So with that, I wish you the happiest of New Year's. Let's go get them in 2022. Let's start with a jam session phone call, or Zoom call rather. Look me up, investwithgreenlight.com, book an appointment. Let's get you some things of value. Let's get you going in a good direction and see what's possible. So on that, I wish you all the best. Happy New Year, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for listening to The Apartment Guys with Tate Seamer. Tate and friends are grateful to have you as a loyal listener. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe, rate, review, and share with friends on your Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or any other podcast platform. Also, check out Tate's YouTube channel for videos of many of these episodes and more. Until next time, take massive action steps and rock on.